Hi, I'm Tiffanie DeVan, host of the Higher Education Access Corner.
And I'm Kim McCurdy, and I host Low Key College Convos.
And today we are here to talk all about student loans, student loan options, and how are you going to get them covered. One of the things we tell everybody at this time of the year, there are so many students who are excited to start their new journey, to go back to school, or possibly even go to school for the very first time. However, the first thing they have to do is pay that bill before they can actually start taking those classes. So we're here to talk about some college options, and we want to help them all figure out how to pay the bill.
That's right.
All right. So Kim, let's go ahead and get started. And I think what we were talking about, and we've talked about in the past so many times, of before we even get to student loans, students first have to make sure that they've exhausted all free financial aid options first. So the goal is to get the free money. Let's talk about how we can do a couple of those things. And I don't know if you want to get started with that or if you wanted me to take that piece.
Well, I think the first thing is make sure folks have filled out their FAFSA.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully you've gotten an award offer and it lists all of the free money, and that's your grants and your scholarships from the school. Maybe you've gotten some merit money. Maybe you have some outside scholarships. Maybe there's, just whatever, those free dollars that you don't have to pay back. And we want to make sure you have all of that. So if you are a student, I think the most important thing to note is you've gotten your award offer. Is everything you've received on the award offer on your invoice that you have to pay for the school? So let's say you got a Pell Grant, but when you get your bill, it's not showing a Pell Grant.
Right.
You need to contact your school because you might have another paper that you have to complete. There's a process called verification. There's a lot of things that could be holding up that Pell Grant. So make sure all of the free money is on your bill. Can't stress that enough.
Right. And I think we need to even specify who are they contacting at the school. We always want to make sure they're reaching out to their financial aid office. So it's the aid office that's usually going to send the award letter or the notification, student aid notification letter,
right,
letting them know what they're going to get. Most of them are going to do it online. Some of them may not, but reach out to the school's financial aid office. Like you said, if you're expecting to see it and you don't see it, reach out to them. If you were expecting a different award amount and that's not the amount that you see coming up,
right,
always double check with that. And then ultimately, like you said, there's a verification process. Maybe they're not sending out the information to you yet because they're still waiting on information from you. Right. And for those who don't know what a verification process is, I kind of equate it to like an audit from the IRS,
That's
but
right,
for financial aid terms.
Right.
In other words, they just need to do some verification of your paperwork. Once you do that, they verify who you are, what it is, what's going on. They'll let you know what you need. Then they can move forward. But if you don't give them what they need, you're not going to get the free aid that could possibly help you minimize student loan debt or even make sure that you're going to get to the right school.
Right. And you're on a time crunch here.
Mm-hmm.
The bills are probably due soon.
Right.
So you want to get that done quickly. The other thing I want to mention is students should apply for federal student loans first before they're borrowing alternative loans or institutional loans or other things. So when you get your invoice, your loans should be listed on there as well. So can you talk about why they might not be listed?
Sure. So a couple things I always say for students, even before we're talking about the student loan process, they're exhausting the free financial aids, but even if work study, let's talk work study too, that could be another thing that's going to minimize that student loan debt. And then once we do that, we're going to look at different student loan options. One of the things a student must do is they may see it on their financial aid notification letter, a direct student loan, but they must go to studentaid.gov. They must complete a master promissory note. And the master promissory note is key because that's pretty much the student loan application. In addition to that, there's an entrance counseling that needs to be done. And that entrance counseling, I think, is excellent because it helps students make sure that they're aware of all of their rights and their responsibilities before they borrow any money. And that's really key because financial literacy is a big thing. Student loan debt continues to increase. We're at almost $1.9 trillion in student loan debt, and it's not going away. So we want students to really know what they're getting themselves into before they borrow any money.
Right.
But now once they've done that, they've completed the master promissory note, they've done the entrance counseling. Generally, schools will then allow the student to follow through with that process for those federal direct student loans that are out there.
Right.
And there's a limited amount that they can borrow. Generally speaking, freshmen can get no more than $5,500. A portion of that it could be subsidized, and we've talked about this on both of our podcasts in the past.
Right.
For that, but they want to also keep in mind that starting July 1st, for some borrowers, those award amounts can look different. Part-time students may not be eligible for quite as much as they had before. So I think reading through the master promissory note, understanding the entrance counseling will really tell them more about student loans. And a shameless plug, we also have a website called My Smart Borrowing that also helps students really understand the importance of borrowing wisely before they do it, and knowing that federal student loans are really your first option, because they are through the federal government. They're very secure loans. A student needs hopes and dreams is what I always say. You don't need your parent's signature to get a federal direct student loan, subsidized or unsubsidized. For a student, you have to be going to school, you have to have completed that FAFSA application and be eligible with some other things, but it doesn't require a cosigner, it doesn't require parents' information on there.
And schools have payment plans, so we want to make sure that folks are aware of that. If you didn't see the information in a packet or online at your institution, check with your financial aid office. There might be a small fee to enroll, but you can spread payments out. So if you have expendable income every month, even if it's just $200 a month, you could pay $200 for 10 months. That's $2,000 that you don't have to borrow. So they should definitely take a look at that.
I think, and one thing I will say is, I love that idea. For some families, they look at it and they say, well, I can't afford that. So if it's not an affordable option,
that's right.
Understood. But I think for that family that can, and you can break those payments up, it really saves you from having to borrow and going into debt.
Or borrow as much.
Or borrow as much,
to my point, like you owe, maybe it would be $500 a month, but you don't have that, but you have enough that you could pay a partial payment. So, but when we talked about rule of thumb, don't borrow more for your undergraduate education than you're going to make your first year coming out of college. So we always talk about that. And when students are borrowing their direct student loans, I'm old, I talk about Stafford.
So I had a Stafford myself, it's okay.
That's right. But when you're borrowing those loans and then you're adding alternative loans, so these are additional loans that can help fill that gap, alternative education loans, private education loans, are you going to be able to make all those payments, and what does that cumulative total look like for the 2-year program, the 4-year program that you're in?
Right, and I think before we really start to talk more about alternative loans, one of the great things I think that's is a tool that's out there. Students can actually go out to studentaid.gov into their account, and they can see what their balances are, so they can track their balances yearly. I think it's always a good idea to go in and plug in, what will your monthly installment look like? First year of borrowing, this is what it looks like for undergraduate. Second year, because as you're increasing, you want to make sure you're not borrowing too much. And like you said, there's that 12%, rule. Don't go over that based off of what your expected starting salary will be, because it makes it really hard to stick within a healthy budget once you graduate. So I say for the student who's not sure how much student loan debt they have and they've already started taking them out, research it, check it, because again, once you get done with your undergraduate studies or you need additional studies beyond, additional funding beyond what you have, there's another second payment plan, and it might be different lenders, so you might have a minimum with one and a minimum with others. You might only have a small amount of income that is out there. But so for that student who does still have a balance that's out there, that's outstanding, and they just need more money, whether it's an undergraduate program or a different type of program, what are some suggestions you have for them?
So we happen to have 2 loans here at PHEAA that students can borrow or parents can borrow. We offer a PA Forward student loan, which is for Pennsylvania residents that are attending school anywhere in the country. And then we also offer something called the Keystone student loan program, and that is for students who are residents of Ohio, West Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. And so those students, if they're coming to PA, they're still going to borrow PA Forward. But if they're going anywhere else in the country, they're going to borrow Keystone student loans.
We got it.
Yes. So, and you might ask, why would I borrow from PHEAA? And so there are a lot of reasons.
Well, let me ask. Why would somebody borrow from PHEAA?
So we are a nonprofit. We can't make a lot of money on these loans. And so we offer no fees, very low rates. We're very competitive in the market. So our average interest rates are about 6 to 7%. And we know that some of our competitors are much higher than that. We're kind of capped at around 12. And some of our competitors go up to 18%. So definitely want families to consider us if you're looking at alternative loan products, because we have a good deal for you, for sure.
And so I know in talking to students and families a lot of times, one of the big questions I always get is, how do I know which product to go with? How do I compare? So what are some options when someone's looking for a student loan? What should they look at? Because I always say shop around, find the best option for you as a family. Some may say, well, I want to take out a Parent Plus loan, I want to help my kid, but I really don't want to be on the hook for it.
Right.
Or there's only a limited amount I can borrow. What are some of the different factors they should take into consideration when trying to do their own comparison?
So I think interest rates is a good place to start. What is the lowest of the low? What is the highest of the high APRs? And what does your credit look like? So take a look. If you have really good credit, you're probably going to do really well with those lower interest rates. If you have a little, credit's a little more like more poor, you might get a higher rate. So I think schools have different websites that they'll use. Elm Select is one, Fast Choice is another. Sometimes they'll do a comparison chart right on their website. But you're going to want to look at things like, can you get this if you're part-time? Can you defer the money while you're the payments while you're in school? What if you do make payments? Do you get a lower interest rate on that? We already talked about fees. Most of the alternative loans, I think, don't really have fees at this point. But check that. Check to make sure. Back-end benefits are important as well. So we offer a 0.25% interest rate reduction if you're going to do auto debit. We also offer a 0.5% interest rate just for graduating. So our student loans, you don't even have to do anything. We'll get a report from the National Student Clearinghouse, and we give you that benefit. And
not everyone does that part.
That's right.
That's a good one as well.
That's right. And Pennsylvania Commonwealth employees, they can get a rate reduction for participating with our loans. No prepayment penalty. We offer that you can actually pay 2 payments a month to help reduce your payments. Cosigner release is something that you might want to take a look at. So there's a variety of things that you want to shop for when you're doing this, but you can look at those comparison charts in some of those websites and just find something that works for your family.
And I think that's what's key, finding what works for your family, because your needs may not be what my needs are.
Right.
And so for a student, for a family, whomever is going to be the one that is borrowing or even co-signing, they want to make sure that they're choosing the best product that fits their lifestyle, their budget, and also consider their future needs, because a lot of these loans, you're not paying back in one day, one year. Some of them are, they're going to extend beyond 5 years, maybe up to 10 or 15. So they do want to choose wisely for that. Another question I get from folks, when should they actually start to apply for these student loans? If classes are going to be taking place in the fall, bills are usually coming out right about now if they've not already. So when's a good time to actually apply?
I mean, we're in peak season right now, so I think if you haven't applied for alternative loans and you're going to need them, I would definitely, get on that because it's not a hard process. It's about 48 hours if you have everything that we need in the application. So it's not a hard process to do, but you want to make sure that you give yourself enough time that if the bill is due, August 10th, that you have enough time to lead up to that. So I would say if you haven't done it and you need it for fall, do it now. In subsequent years, I always tell families start around June-ish. The credit's good for 180 days. So if you apply in June, the school will just process it when they're ready to process it, and you'll be fine.
Okay. And I'm going to give my personal opinion. I actually think it's a solid product. Just from looking at all the different loans out there, having had student loans in the past, I personally think it's a solid product, but I want everyone else to do their own research.
Absolutely.
For that person who wanted to look for, where can they find information?
So PHEAA.org is our website that you can find all things student loans. You'll find all of the information there. We have a variety of things out there. There are repayment calculators, there are brochures that you can look through to see what fits your needs. If you have multiple children, I always tell families, consider what you're borrowing for the first student. Are you going to co-sign? Are you actually going to take a parent loan? That's the other thing, like we have undergrad and grad loans, but we also offer a parent loan product. So if you're a parent and you want to borrow for your student, you don't want them to take on that debt, but you want to do it for them, you can certainly do that as well. So take a look at our website, and we do have account executives that are much like the Access Partners that work throughout our territory. So right now we have 3 of us. We're adding a 4th one in Ohio and West Virginia coming up very, very soon. And our phone numbers and emails are on our website. So we do want you to use us as a resource. Give us a call, send us an email, give us if it's the weekend, give us a little time to get back to you.
Right.
I have many conversations with families, and we talk through different scenarios and what might make more sense. Sometimes I get the question, like, if I have a 529 plan, should I use my 529 plan?
Yep, that's a common question.
And then borrow later, or should I borrow first and save my 529 plan? And in that case, you need to talk to your financial planner. Right. We can't make those decisions for you, but we can give you suggestions on who to talk to,
right,
and how you might proceed through the process.
All good information. And also, you mentioned our website. If they're on their website, another thing, they can get access to our podcast. They can also, that's a shameless plug there, so they can get access to the podcast, but they can also, maybe they're forgetting some stuff. It's lots of webinars that we have.
Right.
I'm a higher education access partner, so under the PA school services side, we have everything from FAFSA, financial aid, and some other webinars. And you guys under the PA forward side and Keystone, you have some webinars that are out there. A lot of them, they can go back, just hear information again, sometimes for the first time. If they're still on the fence about going to school and they need some more information because they're saying, hey, I may need to delay it. I don't have the money this semester. How can we start over? All of the financial aid information about free publications, things like that. FAFSA, financial aid, it's all there, and it's available for our listeners that are out there.
And I would say use the school counselors and the high schools, the career and college navigators that are available, and make sure you talk to the financial aid office at the schools you're applying to. You don't have to be attending that school to get help from that school all the time.
Right.
That's like kind of a misnomer sometimes. I know Community College of Allegheny County, like they would do FAFSA completion sessions, and you didn't even have to attend that institution or even apply to that institution. It was open to the public. You could get help, and I think there are a lot of resources for folks, and you don't have to pay for them. So utilize us, utilize all the free stuff, and we'll help you get through.
Absolutely. So I think we're wrapping it up pretty well. Anything that we didn't cover that you want to cover?
No, I think we hit it all, actually. So appreciate the conversation.
I do too. Nice collab that we've had here. Here from the Higher Education Access Corner.
And Low Key College Combos.
All right. We thank you all for joining us. And we'll see you soon.